everybody. Welcome back to the Wild Thoughts Pod. Today we have a special episode. We're going to be talking about why we're so drawn to toxicity. And the reason it's special because it's kind of Halloween themed. We're going to be going into why we're obsessed with serial killers, but also just toxic portrayals in general.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting. I don't think we've ever spoken about, like criminals necessarily, specifically like serial killers, murderers.
True. We did
the Halloween episode about like the story. Yeah, exactly.
But like serial killers in general, we have not spoken about. Okay, so let's start with just like toxicity in general and like toxic relationships, because I feel like that happens so often. Like I know so many people that have been in a toxic relationship, and I know you have too. Yeah. So like let's start with how to spot a toxic relationship. So first, this usually happens when there's an imbalance of whose needs are met and to what extreme. So sometimes people take too much and the other person's left just giving and not really respecting their own boundaries. Relationship might also feel like really hard and like unending, and it might feel like you're putting in so much work, but again, you're not getting anything back. So it's just like a constant cycle of that. You might be normalizing the pain that you're causing even, or they might be causing you if you're constantly fighting and you're like always making up excuses for that and being like, oh, it's because of this, or oh, we had that one good day, stuff like that. You just have to learn that obviously we're going to give examples of why this might be happening and how you can stop being so drawn to this toxic behavior, but it's just not a good thing. Like bottom line, you gotta just learn to pull yourself out of it because it's causing harm to you and also the person, even if the harm is coming from either side.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah,
like, I said that. I'm like,
it's like,
like you both can be harming
both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even the normalizing, I feel like because when you normalize like whatever abuse and like going through it all the time, like you become used to it, right? So like Kathy said, like if you have one good day, it almost like feels like extraordinary. Like I don't know how to explain.
They like blow it up in their minds. They're like, "Wow, this was really
so good."
Fun.
But to them, the abuse is not abuse. It's just a normal day. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if that, but I feel like that can be sometimes like mess with your mind in terms of like how you perceive it. Obviously, there's other influences like. If it's your partner, you might really like empathize and make excuses. So it's harder.
And there are like a ton of extremes that can go into a toxic relationship. Like it could either be just like you guys constantly fight over some stupidities, or it can be actual abusive behavior. Right. So obviously there's two sides to every story. So we're going to go into like why you might be drawn to a toxic relationship and why you always might be ending up with toxic people. Yeah. So the first reason is maybe you just find toxic relationships very exciting and you kind of don't care that you're getting hurt in the process because you're like, wow, this is so spontaneous. This is so fun. Like, I want to get into a screaming match with my partner just because like it's not boring. It's not normal. I just want to feel a thrill, you know? And it's a lot of like adventure seeking and kind of just.
That's such funny that you it's adventure.
No, it's like, it's kind of fucked up, but like, and like, it was even saying that like, people might enjoy it because the thrill that they get is like them trying something new and something they normally wouldn't, because maybe their partner might be forcing them to do something that they don't usually do. And they're like, oh, this is kind of exciting, even though I'm like not actually into it. Like it's kind of like twisted when you think about it.
I feel like it can also really come from like media portrayal, like what we see. Yeah. Because I feel like they make it seem like it's like exciting. Okay. Or like the making up after. Like
it's funny that you say that because when I was a teenager, I had this idea in a mind that I wanted to go through a breakup.
Oh, like
I was like, I want to feel that like the screaming pain, match, the pain. Like, what the fuck?
I know, because that's toxic.
Why would I
like
think
for
about
us
that?
To want to experience, like, yes, you could want to experience emotions in general, but why do they have to be painful?
Yeah, exactly. But it's literally because of the media that we were consuming at that time. It was like always like Twilight, for example, the pain that Bella was always in because like she wanted Edward, but Edward was like, no. And then Jacob, Caitlin, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also think it's like, because, you know, a lot of the things that we watch have like the happy ending. So even after there's a breakup, there's always like the hero rescuing you. So I feel like maybe that's what we thought. We thought, oh, breakup. And that means after that.
Maybe.
You know, it's not like, oh, break up and then I got to move on or like I'm just alone. Because they perceive that as being like sad, like if you're alone after, or like if you don't get back with the person.
Okay, so you might also have very low self-esteem, and you just might think this is what I deserve. Like even though I'm being treated poorly, I deserve this because I'm not as beautiful as this person is. I'm not as smart. I'm not as blah blah blah. Like you just might put yourself down, and because of that, you think that whatever sign of not attention love or like attention that your partner's giving you, even if it might be the wrong kind, you just accept it because you're like, at least they're sticking with me. You know?
I feel like it's also like, because you think of yourself as low, you go with the lowest, if that makes sense. Like obviously we can admit that criminals, I mean, are bad people. If you're killing people, yes, they may have psychological issues, but they would kind of be ethically like at the bottom, you know. So like I feel like
scum on the floor.
So if you think you're not good enough, then you're gonna be like, oh, like Kathy said, like that's what I deserve. So you like level it up, which is crazy.
Exactly. And even in like normal quotes relationships, they might be like super rude to you or like gaslight you and put you down, but like you might be thinking this is better than what I already tell myself, right? So why do I care what they're telling me, right? You know, and you just might accept it and go along with it. You might also fall for their mask. So a lot of toxic people are usually very good at covering up their flaws, and if you look at serial killers, in their case, they're usually very charming, and that's how they kind of get to you and kind of keep you in the relationship, because you might not be totally seeing that they're a bad person because they have excuses for certain behaviors, and they're basically gaslighting you. And they make you like think that you have to show that you're crazy, that you have to show more empathy towards them because they went through this, blah blah blah.
They're good actors too.
They are. And we're going to talk about it later, but also serial killers, they have that mix of charm. Plus, I want to say they're physically attractive, but that's also because of the media.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So it kind of depends, but we're going to talk about that later. Another reason might be because you like the chase. Now,
that's a whole other level of chase, guys. Okay, come on.
Listen, I understand this because I used to be this person. Okay. I will admit it. I just liked going after something that was like untouchable, right? And like I could never actually have, and like that's so bad, guys. You're gonna freaking lose your mind trying to do that. Let me start there.
But like the untouchable that's toxic, for example,
like the person does not want you, but they want the attention, so they're keeping you there, and you're continuing that chase, and like they might be showing a bunch of red flags, but you don't care because you think they're a 10 in your eyes, and they're so untouchable that you're like, I'm gonna get to them.
It's like a challenge.
Exactly. And exactly what I was saying before. They might be loving the attention you're giving, so they're not straight up saying no. But they're not actually like into it. Exactly.
You know? And a lot of like, sorry, I'm thinking of like serial killers specifically.
It's okay.
But a lot of them are not like, they're not people that commit or can be present in a relationship because they're serial killers, so they're not really all there. So it's almost like you'll never fully have them, if that makes sense, right? So that can maybe be like an ongoing challenge. So that's why people just like stick to it the whole time.
Then obviously another reason, you might have grown up around toxic behavior, so you think it's normal and it's kind of a familiar feeling to you, so you're just naturally drawn to it, right?
Like comfort.
Exactly. It becomes a pattern that's just too hard to break because you're like, this is what I know, right? So why would I try to find something better, let's say?
And I feel like that, like childhood comfort or whatever, that's really hard to like erase completely. It'll always be there kind of in the back of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So my next point was exactly that. So if you experience childhood trauma, abuse, or neglect, a lot of the times you try to recreate that because you're trying to attempt to heal the brokenness that you felt. So you surround yourself with that same type of environment to try to fix it. But obviously, it's really hard to fix a broken environment to begin with. And then they also say that you do that because you're trying to seek closure and you're trying to move past it. But again, once you're in a toxic relationship, it's really hard to get out of that. Right. Okay, this next one, you might just be addicted to drama. This is kind of what I was saying.
Drama, guys. Y'all are going too far.
Legit. This is kind of what I was saying before when I was like, oh, I want to go through a breakup.
Yeah.
Just because you like the drama of it. And you like being able to just have something that is, how do I say this? Like, you just like having that you went through something out of the ordinary and you kind of use that as a way to like,
it's like part of your like,
it's part of your personality.
It's, what's the word? It's just like something you can throw out there.
Exactly.
Like something you have more than other people, maybe like something to show off.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. It's something that you're trying to show off to other people, even though like, obviously it hurt you in the process, but you're kind of using it. You can also like use it as like a deprecating joke. Yeah. And like, but at the same time, you're kind of like stirring up drama because you're like, yeah, you know what I went through? Blah, blah, blah. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Like it could be an attention thing as well. Maybe like if you want attention on you.
So your personality might actually just be attractive to toxic people. So if you're empathetic, if you're someone who's codependent or someone that you feel like you need to fix people, those personalities are more susceptible to being in toxic relationships.
Stop, don't say that. I identify with some of the
other. And you're more susceptible because these toxic people usually have very narcissistic personalities. So they want to be seen as like the one. They want you to praise them. They want you to like, every time they're sad, you need to be sad. Like they want all that attention. So that's why they're drawn to these type of personalities.
And I feel like that's literally the opposite, like someone who's super empathetic and someone who's super narcissistic. So it kind of makes sense that they would pair up because...
But they can also be using that disguise that I said before and like...
Yeah, exactly.
Toning down their narcissism because they want
Right.
that
but
attention.
In reality, they are like true narcissists.
Yeah.
But you just don't maybe know it yet. Or you see like the good in them or whatever.
Exactly.
Oh, this is what I was thinking of.
That was my
I remember.
next
Okay. Oops, sorry. I didn't even realize. When I was young, like I would pretend like, oh, okay, this is embarrassing. Like the pillow was my boyfriend or something. Okay. And I feel like let's say I was like, I would play like I was sometimes in elementary school. I would play like, oh, I'm in like school, like you know, like playing games, and I would like look at myself in the mirror and eat lunch and pretend I had like friends and stuff around. Okay. And then I feel like I would like pretend like, oh, I just got into a fight with my boyfriend, and then you have to like regain like, oh, they're apologizing, but no, I'm mad at you. Like such like,
you know what? I feel that
things.
Because I feel like I did that with my Bratz dolls. I used to like get into like love triangles and like so cheat on each other and like have like why do we do that?
But then you would always take them back and be like it felt nice to like be mad at them and then be like get the attention of them trying for you to forgive them. Like it was nice. It felt nice to get even though it was like imaginary.
Yeah. But you know what? People still do that now. Like you know what that like I don't know if it's a stereotype, but you know what people say like girls start fights in their relationships for nothing just because they want to start something. That's literally it.
And then you know when they say like, oh, I'm fine, but you're not actually fine, and then like because you want the person to like dig deeper, ask more, like don't leave me alone. That's why girls get mad.
We're toxic.
That's why women, you know, like the thing is they'll be like you're fine, but then they're mad when you don't like
it's
what do we just unlock here?
Such a mess.
We're like, whoa.
Okay, moving on from that.
We're like relating women to serial killers. It's like they have the same toxic traits.
Listen. Not all serial killers are men. Let's say
that's
that though.
True. Majority are though.
Majority. Yeah. Well, I don't know actually. Majority of the known ones, I guess. Maybe women are just better planners. And they get away with it.
But no, men are definitely majority of men.
I don't know, probably.
I don't know this statistically, but I feel like it's accurate. There's no documentary about a woman.
Okay, my next point, you might like to find the good in people. So exactly what you were saying before. I wrote a wake-up call. Some people only care about themselves. So
yeah. Sometimes there's no good in people.
This is why I don't trust people.
Yeah.
Because there's no good in everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Some people don't have any good in them. We just have to accept
it's all about themselves. And that's kind of what I was saying before. It's like, yes, you might have a bunch of bad days, but then you might excuse the behavior because you're like, oh, but they were so good to me this one day in
so you
April.
like see it in them.
Exactly. So you're like, I can take that out of them. I can help them get there, blah, blah, blah. It's not gonna work.
Happen. I think it's also like the humane part of ourselves, like as human beings. Most human beings are empathetic. They're, they don't really go killing people or whatever. But obviously there's a minority that are not the same. And I think for us, it's hard to comprehend that like someone can hurt someone like that or be abusive or do all of those things.
Yeah.
So we try to find the human characteristics in people so that it can make more sense to us.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly a good point actually for the serial killer part. Yeah. Like we're going to get into that. And then leading into that, you also might be addicted to fixing people. You might have a savior complex. Yeah. I when I was writing this, I thought of, that trope that like, so stupid.
What?
But like if the boyfriend is like, or the guy you're seeing is like super mad at someone, they're yelling, and then you go in front of them, you're like, no, look at me.
Oh, ew, I'm cringing.
That trope though, people live for, and it's literally because they have a savior complex because they think they're the only ones that can calm them down, that can fix this behavior. They're gonna be the one to change them. Like that's literally this.
There's so many little things in movies or whatever that we don't even realize that
and so usually when you have a savior complex, it's like nothing makes you feel better than finding a person that's toxic and finding a way to help them.
Right.
Like they feed off of that. So basically you just try to find people that are like in desperate need of saving, or if they're super toxic, you want to change that. Oftentimes when you do that though, you sacrifice your own needs, and that's when the toxic cycle begins, because you're just giving and giving and giving, and they're not giving anything in return. Yeah. Lastly, you might be non-committal. You might find people that are toxic because it won't work out. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about dating someone that they might want a long-term relationship with, because it's not going to work out here. Yeah, exactly. That's actually one of the points, but they had when we were reading articles, they said avoidant attachment theory. It was more in relation to serial killers and why people might want to date them is because, but that's like extreme. It is extreme. I'm like, but I mean, but maybe people do that because they have that attachment theory so like ingrained in them that it's like they'll do anything. Yeah. They really do not want. But then just don't date anyone. Like don't get it. I don't know. So now our next point is kind of how pop culture further intensifies this attraction to toxic behavior. We're going to dive more into this when we talk about serial killers, but just some like high level points. There's always the storyline of like a wounded person who's been hurt in the past that's acting out against something or someone. Yeah, like someone hurt them, so they're gonna... Exactly. And then there's that person that comes in, swoops in, and wants to fix everything so that they can have their happily ever after. Oh my god. That's like Hollywood is so damaging. Ugh. That's crazy. Don't even... like literally all of the rom-coms going through my mind right now, I'm like... Wow, this is my favorite movie. Literally, my favorite movie is toxic. At least we can probably be aware. It's because when we watch those movies, we're not like critically thinking about them necessarily. It's kind of like those passive movies like escapes. But the thing is, they do influence us. But hopefully now that we're aware, we can like, we know. We just have to... You just have to like... remind ourselves. Exactly. Yeah. There's always that like the girl ending up with a mysterious bad boy who she can fix, like the same thing. And then there's also the portrayal of someone being super jealous. But that should be seen as a toxic behavior because it's like they're overbearing, very protective, possessive, not protective, possessive. And you think that they care so deeply for you when in reality they just want to control you. Yeah, exactly. And control the situation. I feel like something too is like I feel like movies translate passion into like, passion is supposed to be toxic, and like when someone really loves you, it's supposed to be. But it makes them go crazy that they just act out. That's not passion. That's strange behavior. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. we're going to go into examples of media that promotes toxicity. So Chuck and Blair from Gossip
Girl. People need to talk about them more because they're so toxic.
But it's like, you love their relationship, but they hurt each other so, like, the shit that each of them put the other through.
Yeah. I can just like...
Oh my God. And there's even shit that like Chuck did in earlier seasons that we all just forget about.
Yeah. I don't even remember anything.
It's bad. Like, R word bad. He tried.
It's... Oh!
Like, he tried. It's bad. And we just completely forget about it because we're so drawn to the relationship that they're in. And
we were like encouraging them to be together.
Yeah. Not the people. Well, see, but then the storyline, it's like he's trying to be better for her. So that's where we get sucked in again. Yeah, it's bad.
The writers, what are you guys are psycho. But it's also like, for example, let's say we see our friends going through something similar. Like, what if we like make excuses because like in movies it shows us like, oh, this is acceptable, or like forgive him. But see, I don't know if it would translate into that, but
that's the thing. I feel like in real life when we see it as a third party, we can differentiate it. Yeah. It's just
true.
The
you're
media, they have like attractive actors.
Yeah,
and like
there's the behind the like there's everything going on. You see both sides.
It's a fantasy.
Yeah, you're right.
So another example, Carrie Bradshaw and Mr. Big from Sex and the City.
That's the one. Who's Mr. Big again? The one is it in the movie?
It's in the
guy
movie.
In the movie, and doesn't he like
where
leave her?
He leaves her at the altar?
Yeah, he's tall, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I never watched the show. I only watched the movie, so I can't say much about this. But just the fact that he like didn't marry her after all of that time, and like she wanted to be married, I think, and he didn't. But then he said like, okay, let's do it, and then didn't get married.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure he did other stuff during the movie.
100% during the show. And then like he didn't want to go out. Like all he wanted to do was like
watch
stay
TV
in and
or
watch
something.
TV.
No,
like,
like in their bedroom.
Are you serious? Yeah. Sorry, you're old, sir. Like get out and show her a good time. My gosh.
Get out and show her a good time.
Okay, so the next one we already mentioned, but Bella and Edward from Twilight. I know.
Wait, what did they like? I don't even remember. I need to rewatch this movie.
When I was reading it, because for sure, like Jacob was toxic,
100%.
But Bella and Edward, she was so obsessed with him, and he kind of like fed on that obsession, and then he's like, "No, I'm not good for you. I need to leave," and then left her, and then she was like distraught because she was so obsessed with him. And then he tried to kill himself because he couldn't live without being with her. Like it was just like.
Wasn't he like a stalker too? Like, wouldn't he watch?
Oh yeah, he would like watch her sleep. Yeah.
Why were we into this?
You guys are not gonna watch these movies or shows the same way after we discuss this.
Is so. I don't know. Do you think it'll make an impact? People will like.
Sometimes when I watch movies that I watched in the past and then rewatch it, I kind of like pick up on these behaviors. Yeah. I'm like, whoa,
that was weird.
Like ew, like kind of cringe. Speaking of cringe, Ross and Rachel from
Were they
Friends.
toxic?
Are you serious?
I only watched all of Friends once, but it was great.
Ross is the epitome of toxicity.
It's not on Netflix anymore, is it?
I don't know. I haven't watched it in a while. I have all the DVDs though, if you ever want to watch it.
Wow, I don't have a DVD.
I have it like deep in a drawer. But anyways, Ross is the epitome of toxicity.
What did he do?
He is... What didn't he do? He's very whiny. And there's that debate, like if he actually cheated on her because they were on a break, and it was like immediately after they took the break, blah blah blah. He gaslit Rachel all the time. But then Rachel, I was reading some things that even she did some stuff that was kind of like
she
questionable.
gaslighting him?
I don't know. It was like both of them together, you know. And then like. When couples break up and get back together so many times, I'm like, what's happening here?
That is so like no. I'm sorry. If you break up more than once, okay, twice, I'll say, don't get back together. Stop.
I also am someone that doesn't believe in a break. Like if you need a break up. Break up completely.
Exactly. But then what about if they get back together after? Isn't that kind of a break? Like, but without knowing it, without
it's not really a break because you're breaking up completely. And when you break up completely, you have two separate lives at that point. If you're just on a break, you're still thinking about that person. You're still like, you don't want to explore other relationships. What's the point of a break?
Like, literally, just tell your partner you need some space and don't talk to them for like 2 days. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe not. I mean, that might be rude, but
I don't believe in breaks. But that's just my point of view.
Oh, you see, I only watched Grease once, which was
what the heck?
I think Grease is overrated.
Okay, this is a whole other debate. We're not gonna get into this.
Listen, I've only watched it once, but it was so a nice movie.
It's a musical, though. Do you like musicals?
I mean,
I don't think you're into musicals.
I watch Bollywood musicals.
Okay, but
okay, listen, it's good. It's good. Okay, don't kill me now.
Whatever.
But Sandy and Danny from Grease. But what did they do that was toxic? I don't remember. It's just the way they were like behaving.
Yeah, he was like a different person with her, and then with his friends he was like the cool guy that
they always
didn't really care about her, and like because of that
they always do that. It's like the cool boy who dates the nerd or whatever, and then it's like remember A Walk to Remember, but that's a good movie.
Yeah.
But you know he's like all like this band, and then they're like making fun of
but then even at the end of the movie she had to change her whole appearance and the way her attitude. And then he was like in love with her and was like,
well, then you're not dating the real
They tried
her.
to change for each other. Yeah. But, like, you're already, you know?
Just stop. Next one, Romeo and Juliet, classic. Shakespeare.
Like.
So toxic.
What can I even say about that? The whole play is toxic.
The thing is, their relationship wasn't that toxic. In like their love.
Well, yeah, they became extremely codependent on each other.
Oh, the way you said that sounded like a psychologist.
Extremely codependent to the point where like if one of us dies, we both die.
You see, there's a problem with me. I didn't even realize what was wrong with them. I'm like, I clearly need to do more love. Stuff. Yes, it's not my fault as a media. But you see, it's good to question. Yeah. I'm sure we can find something toxic with every. I mean, look. Sometimes you'll go through maybe something that can be seen as toxic with your partner, but I think if you don't repeat it and if it's not like a constant,
it has to be a repeated behavior.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, the next one, I had to put this one on the list, but Christian Grey and Anna, right? Her name is?
I don't know. I only watched
Anna,
it
whatever. From 50 Shades of Grey. That movie is so toxic.
He literally made her sign a contract just so he can have sex with her.
Like.
And extreme sex.
Yeah, and he was creepy. He was very possessive of her.
See, I didn't watch all 3 movies. I only watched the first one.
He's very possessive, and I think the way the first movie ends, she like consented to it, but the last thing he did was like unconsensual, which is what
I remember. She was crying.
Yes, it was. I think it was like, or it went too far. I don't know, but that's psychotic. I'm sorry, but. That movie is super... Like, that's, like, kind of directly toxic. Like, you can see, you know?
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet, you don't really realize. No, I'm kidding.
It's the obsessive behavior. Oh, my God. You just said
it. But, like, Joe from U2, like, what is... all the couples. But no, it was more Joe. It was one-sided, but then with Victoria
So, I grouped Joe into serial killers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because he technically is a serial killer.
Yes, that's
He's just,
true.
like, a fictional one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about
and
that.
And we're
next.
like, he's so hot.
I literally like Penn Badgley is like, stop saying that I'm hot. Like he's a serial killer.
You read the script, sir, and you signed on to it. But do we say that because he's a serial killer, or do we say that because he's attractive? Yeah.
But it's just like, okay, sorry, little tangent before we get into this next thing. So he has a podcast.
Yes, I saw that, and he's married.
His voice is so attractive. Like I was listening to him, like I am
and
so
in Gossip Girl, I was like,
oh,
he's not that cute, and now I'm like,
I was so calm just listening.
Is it good?
He's with he has 2 co-hosts.
Yeah,
it is good.
His wife was on it at one point.
I don't know. They interview celebrities.
Okay, yeah.
But I
didn't even know where did it come out of. Yeah.
Anyways, that's probably mixed with his appearance and then like going on to like.
But also actors, like they do so much like voice acting and like imagine if they take it on. Like what's his name? The one who played Elvis.
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
So bad.
But okay, I think there's definitely more examples we could give y'all. You know, you can take that as a challenge. Just list them in the comments.
Yes.
For the next episode, so you can let us know who else you found. But I think there's everything there is. But now we're kind of go into more specifically, serial killers. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah. Halloween, October. And why people romanticize serial killers. Even though serial killers will torture women, will rape them, kill women, a lot of serial killers have actually been in romantic relationships with women after already being convicted of these serial murders. For example, there's Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, Richard the Night Stalker.
Sorry, the way you said that was like my buddy Richard. Oh my god.
Oh god. Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. My buddy Richard.
Okay, did you watch that?
The Night Stalker? No, bro, I can't anymore.
Disgusted. Like, just his appearance.
It's a documentary?
Yeah, but they showed real footage of him, and he made me physically ill.
I don't think I can watch any more serial killer
I couldn't do it.
Okay, so there's Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, John Wayne Gacy, the clown. And I saw, he's really creepy because in Jeffrey, there's
and
like
Dahmer?
the yeah.
Yeah, he has a picture of him. And they also showed like one
Is it because it happened around the same timeline?
So.
Okay, because I didn't even know. Anyways, there's a bunch of criminals and serial killers specifically that have married women. So I don't think sometimes it's an issue for women because you can literally romanticize anything nowadays. And it could also be about, there's multiple things that go into it.
Yeah.
But we'll kind of go into some of them and why this may happen. There's actually some people who are basically sexually attracted to serial killers, people who basically commit crimes and kind of rebel and go against society. This is called hybristophilia, I think.
Okay.
If I'm not saying it properly. I don't know. But it's kind of like a fetish, basically.
Yeah.
It's just people who it turns them on. Like, I don't know. It can be psychological, but they just get. And maybe they're psychopathic. I don't know. Because it's like, you know how Jeffrey Dahmer was like getting aroused by his killings and whatever?
Yeah.
But that's also like a psychotic trait. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Listen, I don't want to kink shame, but.
That's a weird.
How are you attracted?
Kink. Yeah. Maybe there's a chemical imbalance.
Killing people.
Yeah, I know. God created us all different. I don't know. I'm kidding. No, but honestly, I think there's just. Maybe it could be based off of like environmental things, like how you grew up, like if you were abused. Like that's the thing. I guess psychologists would obviously be the best to know, and it's really different case by case. It's like it's crazy to think.
Yeah, it like blows my mind.
And like what has to happen for you to come to that point, you know? So I'm sure, I don't know, but if anyone's a psychologist, they can let us know.
Sorry, if you guys watch Dahmer.
Oh yeah,
there is a scene like that he realizes that he's sexually aroused from like the dismembered body.
Yeah, and wasn't he like touching the heart or even the animals? Yes.
And that's how it kind of kick-started. And like, imagine just discovering that.
Yeah, I know. And I was talking to this. Okay, sorry, a little tangent on the side too. Yeah. I was talking about this with my friend, and she was watching it. But basically, like, psychopaths have a lot of like. The thing is, they need something to trigger the psychopathic characteristics in them, because some people don't get triggered even though they're psychopaths, so they don't like end up killing anyone or anything. That's kind of what
like in the show his dad was like, I used to have these thoughts,
but he never,
he obviously didn't express it to his son, but he also never did anything. But I think what triggered Dahmer, me trying to analyze
probably
Dahmer
a lot of things, his mom
left, it was 100% like childhood trauma, but also his dad started showing him how to cut up animals.
Exactly.
Like, you don't think that's gonna trigger something?
Yeah,
like, seriously?
I would be like, not today, son.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a lot of things that go into that. Kathy already mentioned this, but in general, sometimes, not only serial killer specific, but just wanting some excitement in your life. When you kind of think you have a dull lifestyle, you just want something to bring you excitement and thrill. When you end up pairing up with a serial killer or dating a serial killer, there's a lot of attention. You kind of become famous. Your name is everywhere. You get attention from the media. People are talking about you in podcasts. No, it's okay. Writing articles. So it's almost like being famous. So maybe you just really like the attention. Mm-hmm. And specifically getting it from the fact that you're with a serial killer. Yeah. So it's very specific.
Like that no press is bad press.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's the easy way to get famous. I don't know how easy it is to get with a serial killer, but I'm assuming it's not too hard.
Well, I mean, I feel like at that point, they're just going to take whatever is given.
Yeah, true. They might have a lot of fans. And oh my God, remember they show it in the Dahmer series? He like gets a bunch of letters and that feeds their ego. Yeah. And then there's obviously something called the narcissistic conditioning. So this is when individuals have a history of trauma, so they're more susceptible to toxic relationships. It's easier for them to get into it because they're so used to going through abusive relationships. So like we said, it could kind of almost be comforting or a familiar feeling, and I feel like you tend to empathize more with the person because you've been through it before, and you kind of like, for example, if it was your parents who abused you when you were young, you always see your parents as like, oh no, people who care for you or love you. So you might think the same about someone else who's being abusive. You might associate it with that, like maybe they're caring deep inside or something like that. So yeah, so it could be like a conditioning that you have based on childhood trauma. If you're really lonely, I guess that's like really like a different state of loneliness. And I feel like when you connect with anyone, like you're almost desperate for that contact, like human contact, that anyone's attention. And it kind of goes into like a lot of things. Like if you're an outsider and a stranger welcomes you and you see kind of a good side in them and you're like, oh my God, like I have someone now, like it's kind of normal that you would get attached to them because you never had that before. Yeah. And having human company is like 100% natural. It's something people need. So it must feel really, really good. And maybe the good feeling overshadows whatever bad thing they do, you know? It's a selfish feeling too. Yeah.
It's probably also like highly attached to self-esteem issues
too.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we kind of mentioned this, but if you're kind of, how Kathy said, non-committal, you have an avoided attachment style, then this can ensure distance. And to me too, when I was reading this, I'm like, whoa, I didn't even think like, really? Like,
I would have never thought.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess it really depends if you really want to make sure someone isn't present or fully committed, because your needs match up maybe.
I don't think it's like them saying like, I'm going to get with this person because I know I won't have a future with them. It's just like
they realize like as they go through the, exactly. And it matches your needs because that person you can't give them they don't need all your attention, and you don't want all their attention either, so it just, I guess it matches. Whoever's avoidant here, anywhere, be careful. No, I'm kidding. Oh, Kathy is, I forgot.
It's okay. I'm in a very committed relationship right now.
She's very self-aware. She knows no serial killers are getting in the way. Yeah, exactly. Another reason is that, like we mentioned, we tend to like fantasize engagements with serial killers to process, like women can process their own traumatic experiences through that. Another reason, which we kind of mentioned, but women may use fantasy engagements with serial killers to kind of process their own experiences of violence. So kind of what we mentioned, it's that a feeling of like familiarity, comfort, since they've been through it in the past, getting with a serial killer or being with a serial killer, it's kind of like an understanding almost. It's like if you talk about violent behaviors, you won't be judged because the person you're with themselves is violent. So it's kind of like it can almost be for them a safe space, but it comes into the feeling of comfort and familiarity from your past abusive relationships or environment, etc.
Yeah, I think it also doesn't have to necessarily be them actually being with the serial killer, but just like an obsession of them because they feel like they can relate to them,
right? And it, I guess, can tie in with like the empathy part also. A lot of this evidence shows that women who have experienced childhood trauma or any traumatic views of like intimacy are often attracted to serial killers. So if you have like abusive partners or like anything with like violence and aggression, it makes sense that you're kind of more drawn to it if you've already experienced it in the past and as a child, because like childhood, how you grew up as a child, very heavily influences like how you are as an adult and how your relationships are as an adult.
And it could be that like if you're with someone who's very caring and like soft even, and like takes their time, let's say, like even in intimate situations, you might not trust that because you're not used to it and you haven't seen anyone show love that way. Yeah. So you're more drawn to this kind of like messed up behavior.
Yeah, exactly. Women that may kind of be more attracted to these types of personalities or types of people can also have like, I guess, internalized misogyny, internalized sexist views, because it's possible that women who have like already experienced abuse use internalized sexism to kind of distance themselves from fears of harassment or abuse by kind of deflecting the blame and hostility to other women and aligning more with the abuser. Yeah. So I feel like they put the blame more on the women. Exactly. And not the abuser, like, oh, maybe it was the women's fault, or like she was acting like that, maybe she deserved it, she did something to like piss him off. So it's really, yeah, it's like exactly like kind of internal sexism, misogyny, aligning kind of, because most of the time they are men aligning with the man and the aggressor. Yeah. Rather than sympathizing with the women. And like we mentioned, another factor is that media chooses to put attractive actors to play serial killers. And actually, like a lot of the serial killer documentaries, I haven't seen, like, usually like white men, if I'm not mistaken. Like I haven't, oh no, there's some have been, but I guess the ones that they idealize or the ones that they like romanticize more. Yes. But it's also because that was the standard of beauty. Like you'll less back in the day, people were less.
But also notice how most serial killers were white men.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know this like what the behind. But I think it's also women also will be more lenient against the white man because, you know, like that is the ideal of beauty, unfortunately. And it's majority of people, you know, fair skin, like it's associated with being more like gentle, kind, and like all of that. So you're less.
Yeah, and that's exactly why, like, in the Dahmer series, most of the victims were black or brown men. Yeah. And that's why it didn't get taken seriously.
Right, exactly. Because they knew that back then, well, even now, the system is so broken, the police will not question the white man and taking home a black man or whatever is happening. But if it was the opposite, then there would be much more questioning. So, yeah, exactly. That's so... But even like Ted Bundy, there are a bunch of them that are like portrayed as these like, you know, and they play this character. They're really good at like acting like charming people, but of course their appearance really helps. But in movies, like they got Zac Efron to play him. And then for Jeffrey, I mean, yes, they kind of made him like, but they did get like, what's his name from American Hair? Evan Peters. We know what he looks. Yeah. We're more, and even that may be psychologically knowing the actor, maybe it makes us empathize more because we're like, oh.
So that's the thing. There's like two sides to this because if you choose an attractive character to play whoever you're depicting, obviously like we're not gonna see them as a monster, right? Because exactly what you're saying, we're gonna empathize with them. We see them as attractive, so like to us, like they're not a monster, not this
scary person.
But then, like what directors try to do also is like they do that in order for you to see like anyone
can do it exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like I think not everyone who's attractive is actually a nice person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, that makes sense too. That's what I was gonna say. Is that it can be the normal attractive person that you know what I mean? Yeah. That just means we need to get with ugly people, I guess. No, I'm kidding. Us empathizing with someone that isn't necessarily the hero and maybe the villain, but it's just we empathize with their pains and struggles because, like, for example, the Dahmer series, even my cousin was like, oh, I'm not watching that because it's gonna, like, I don't want to empathize with him. And in a way, I understand. Like, I watch it because I was like curious, but it does... It tends to show his perspective and how he grew up and like, but it does show the backstory of like the brain and like what happened.
But I think you also have to like disassociate that from like his actions. Like, obviously every serial killer is like that because of something that happened in the past, exactly. Right?
Like,
so like
they were not a kid and just started killing people either.
Like obviously your curiosity might get the best of you because you're like, okay, why did he actually do it? Yeah. Like what was it that triggered it? And I think that's what's fascinating about it. But like when I watched Dahmer, I was not like empathizing with him.
Exactly. You're not like, I feel bad. Yeah.
Fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
I was getting physically sick off of some of the episodes. Yeah. And I think like a lot of people have like torn views on watching it because I know also like it re-traumatized the families
the victims,
because they weren't. I think they weren't even warned about it.
I don't know. How does that work? Don't you legally have to?
I have no idea. But like I looked at it and I was like, this guy's a monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think they did a good job at depicting him like that.
Yeah, but I think it's also depends who's watching it.
Exactly.
Like if it's someone who has more empathetic characteristics or who has been in abusive, like they might see in a different way. I think like Kathy said, they show the psychology behind like what happened, but then it doesn't make you feel bad, but it makes you feel like, oh, he was like a human.
There was like some sort of understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Like understanding which is kind of what they're trying to do, but it's also like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. But it's his fault. I mean, he did kill the people, but then also psychologically there's something wrong with him, but not to make excuses because, I mean, he could have just not.
He could have just stopped that.
Yeah, he could have just not. But now moving on to kind of how to solve this issue. I don't know if we're gonna... Look, we're not professionals.
No.
But if we can become more aware of, I don't think all of us are dating serial killers, but...
I hope not.
I hope not. But just in general toxicity, how to become aware, point it out, and just move on from it. Because a lot of it can come from childhood and how the love was perceived when you were growing up and the environment you were in. So I think you should also think back to like how you grew up and evaluate how your love was given then to see like, oh, was I treated maybe in a toxic manner by my parents growing up? Like, how did they show me affection? So that way, when you go into relationships or anybody or friendship, you kind of evaluate actively, like, how am I receiving love? Like, and how do I want to receive love? But also notice your patterns. Like, oh, have you... Like, think back to your past relationships. Has anything not worked out? And then think back to, like, oh, why did I let myself be treated this way? And kind of link it back that way. And I think if you become aware, then you can correct it moving on. Mm-hmm. And then basically we talk a lot about empathy. And empathy is good, but also to a certain extent. Like, don't always have empathy for everyone under any circumstances. We tend to be kind of empathetic towards people that hold toxic traits, like abusive partners, for example, because we've been with them and we're not really seeing like the outside perspective, and because we're emotionally attached and because of the portrayal of media. But we kind of have to take ourselves out of that and try to unlearn it and really see when empathy is necessary and when it's not. Yeah. And then most media portrayals don't really talk about, because there was a part about like boundaries and consent, and a lot of like, if you watch couples, like you don't see in media like people putting in relationships like the boundaries. Like they don't show that in TV. Yeah. Or some things can even be borderline unconsensual and it's kind of passed as okay on the television. But kind of think of like, if you were in that movie scene, how would you react, for example, if someone did that to you? Like, you probably would be uncomfortable because they don't really show us in the movies, like, they show us, like, the fake, like, romanticized version of the reaction. But in reality, if someone, like, did that to you without asking, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, woo, like, this is... You maybe be uncomfortable. So think of also, like, how you would rewrite that scene if it was...
Well, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, how you would perceive it and how you would want to be treated. Like, how would it go in your way? Yeah. And then see the differences that, oh, like, this wouldn't actually make you happy, even though that's what the person's acting like. I think that's it, too, is that we see other people's emotions on TV and we're like, oh, she's so happy after that. And we, like, take on that emotion. Yeah, exactly. But that's not actually how we probably feel most of the time. And I think also just like be aware of what healthy relationships look like. By doing research, you can listen to podcasts, obviously with like professional advice, because not everything's accurate. Read books that are, do your research as to what books are good to read also. And then speak to a professional, I think. If you're going through something, and you're not sure, a psychologist, psychotherapist, there's different types of counselors. They'll be the best people to also help you if you're not sure, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet, but just use different resources, I think, and like check your facts.
And there's also a lot of psychologists that actually have podcasts. If you ever like just find those ones, like exactly. Obviously there's so much that we can say, like we do our research, but again,
it's limited. Limited.
Yeah, exactly. We're not professionals.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So correct us if we're wrong, because I don't know if some of the stuff I said, but so just I think that was a good episode.
Yes. Okay, wait, we got a question of the week.
Oh yes.
All right, so we asked you guys, what shows, movies, or books do you think are only popular because they portray a toxic relationship trope? We got a few responses. Some of them I don't know. So 7 Days in June.
Oh.
Then someone said 90% of Wattpad fanfics.
Duh.
So, you better believe it.
It wasn't Twilight. Oh no, Twilight wasn't. 50 Shades was of Twilight. Exactly. That's so weird.
Okay, Sex and the City, Carrie and Big, like we said. Gossip Girl, Chuck and Blair. Ted as a hopeless romantic. I'm assuming this is How I Met Your Mother. And then someone said Lolita. So,
it's like an older man in love with like a younger girl or something. And he's like Predator, basically.
Yikes.
But apparently it's a well-written book, I guess.
Oh, yeah, because it's super popular.
Yeah, but
like,
I guess
I've heard of
it's
this,
toxic.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, leave a like and a comment. Follow us on all the podcast platforms. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else that you listen. Also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Wild Thoughts Pod, and follow us individually. Everything is linked down below as usual. Okay, let us know if you guys enjoy the shorter episodes, or this one ended up being a long one. So if you do enjoy hour-long episodes, let us know, and we'll try to, maybe we'll do a mix sometimes.
Yeah, like longer.
Yeah, but yeah, just let us know your feedback down below, and that's it. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.